The Steelers took care of business in Week 1 as Big Ben returned in a big way in the first game back from elbow surgery. Meanwhile, an already stacked defense looks sharp once again in New York. This week, the team returns to Heinz Field for the home opener to take on Drew Lock and the Broncos. We have the latest with the black and gold, and it's all right here on Steelers Kickoff.
Welcome to Steelers Kickoff.
Good morning, everyone, and it is a game day and a beautiful day for football inside Heinz Field. Unfortunately, those stands will be empty as the Steelers host the Denver Broncos, and they'll do so as 7.5-point favorites, trying to go 2-0 to start this season. Hello again, everyone. I'm Bob Pompeani, and welcome to a jam-packed show as we get you ready for the Steelers 2020 home opener. Later, I'll be joined by my colleague Rich Walsh and former quarterback Charlie Batch to get their perspective on this game today against the Denver Broncos. Also, we're going to be joined by the Post-Gazette's Gerry Dulac. He's our insider and one of the few people who will be able to be inside that stadium on game day in person. That brings us to a first topic, the first ever Steelers game played in Pittsburgh without any fans in attendance. So viewers got a preview of how things would look without fans last week when the Steelers beat the Giants at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. Crowd noise was artificially pumped into both the stadium and broadcast with kind of mixed results. The lack of fans didn't seem to hamper the Steelers' play in any way, but they did notice a difference between a normal game and what took place on Monday night.
These are not normal circumstances, and so, you know, I'd be less than honest if I said the empty stadium on Monday Night Football felt normal, but it is normal for us in 2020.
It was incredibly different. I'll say that, pulling into the stadium and not having tailgaters and not seeing fans. I definitely had some jitters on the bus ride over, but when you pulled into the stadium and not seeing all that usual kind of buzz before a game, it definitely calmed me down a little bit. And, you know, parking the bus just kind of outside of the stadium and walking in and not having cameras in your face and all that stuff definitely made it a little bit calmer in the situation.
All right, let's bring in our good friend, former NFL quarterback Charlie Batch, who's our quarterback of this program. And Charlie, let's get your impressions last week while watching an NFL game without fans. You did so here in Pittsburgh. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it was a little different, and the only time that I really noticed it was whenever they did the replay and you saw the All-22 package, and that's when you really noticed what was going on or what lack of what was going on in the stands. But I think you heard it, and you heard it right from Ben Roethlisberger, just riding into the stadium and not seeing tailgaters, trying to get yourself pumped up. Those are the things that really you have to really pay attention to or at least get yourself ready for.
Well, you know, Heinz Field won't be the only thing that looks different today. The Steelers' offensive line won't look the same as it did last week, not even close to last week because of some injuries that happened late in the game against the Giants. And boy, on back-to-back plays, just 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Pittsburgh native and starting right guard Stefan Wisniewski injured on this play. He apparently tore his pectoral muscle. He won't play this week as the Steelers placed him on IR, so he is out minimum of 3 weeks. And then on the very next play, which resulted in a touchdown to JuJu Smith-Schuster, right tackle Zach Banner went down as he backpedaled in pass protection. He tore his right ACL. Unfortunately, after working so hard in the offseason to become a Steelers starter, his season is over before it ever started. Charlie, you always hate to see anyone lose a season to injury, especially when it's a guy like Banner who dedicated himself to becoming a starter for the very first time. I'm sure as a player you can identify you've been injured before. What's that like?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, especially when you work so hard to crack the starting lineup. You can see the respect that he had there. And if you notice, Ben Roethlisberger, he threw a touchdown pass there to JuJu Smith-Schuster. He fell down on top of Zach and heard him yelling and immediately looked over and started consoling him right there because he knew something was seriously wrong. And it's very tough, and hopefully we wish, not hopefully, but we do wish Zach Banner a speedy recovery.
As the saying goes, though, and Tomlin says it all the time, next man up. And the next man behind Banner is going to be Chuks Okorafor. He played well in this preseason, almost beat Banner out for the job. So what do you think he'll be like in Banner's absence?
Yeah, the team feels very comfortable with him stepping into that lineup. This is why he's on the roster, but they expected him to be a starter, not necessarily the backup. But here he is and started into the lineup. When he played last year, he played well. So this team is comfortable moving forward. We just can't afford any more injuries on that offensive line.
Oh, it is thin right now, absolutely. And to take Wisniewski's place, you got a rookie, Kevin Dotson. We need him certainly to step up. We saw in the offseason, we saw videos of him pushing trucks around on social media. The guy's pretty strong, a good run blocker. What about pass protection and his biggest obstacles as a rookie starting in his very first season?
Well, he's a big body inside there. He adds depth there, but you hate to see that with Wisniewski, because this was a Pittsburgh guy who had an opportunity for his first starting lineup, shot in the starting lineup. But here Dotson is. This is a big guy in the middle. They feel fully comfortable here. Unfortunately, we don't know as fans watching him because there was no preseason, so we're all going to learn on the fly when Dotson steps into the lineup.
Boy, it's going to be interesting for sure today at 1 p.m. right here live on KDKA. All right, Charlie, back with you in a moment. Fortunately for the Steelers, Monday night wasn't all doom and gloom. Several players had great games, both sides of the ball, especially one that the fans were hoping to see a lot more out of this year. More on that. Let's go to my colleague, Rich Walsh.
All right, thanks, Bob. One of the biggest question marks coming into this season was JuJu Smith-Schuster and if he could rebound after last year's frustrating season. Last week against the Giants, it sure looked like he did. Ben Roethlisberger looked JuJu's way 6 times on Monday night. He caught all 6 passes, 69 yards, 2 touchdowns. The two look to have their timing back, like in 2018 when JuJu averaged 7 catches, 90 yards per game. But JuJu's most impressive play Monday night wasn't a catch. It might have come late in the third quarter when the Steelers were nursing a 6-point lead. He dove into a pile of Giants to recover this Benny Snell fumble, and it didn't go unnoticed by his teammates.
He's a professional, and that's one of the things that's special about him. For instance, that play that he recovered the fumble, he had nothing to do with it. And Coach showed it today. There were, I believe, 9 Giants in that pile, and JuJu just dove in there and came up with it. And to me, that shows the unselfishness of a team and of a player in JuJu.
When I see stuff like that, I don't ever second guess or even just second think about, not jumping in there and getting the ball. It's more so like, I want to win any possible way, contract year, not contract year. I want my team to win. I want to win a world championship, and that's my end goal. I'm just showing the type of player I am.
All right, I'm joined now by the Post-Gazette's Gerry Dulac, who's outside of Heinz Field this morning. Jerry, JuJu Smith-Schuster had a big game on Monday night. How important is he to the overall success of this offense?
Rich, good morning. I think you saw it last week against the Giants. You saw Ben's reliance on him. You saw the 2 touchdowns to him. You saw the timing pass where Ben led him by 5 yards. That's the connection they've always had, and I expect JuJu to have a big season like 2018 this year with Ben being back.
That's a bold prediction. I want to move on, Jerry. There was a lot of controversy surrounding Al Villanueva's decision not to follow the team's direction in honoring Antoine Rose Jr. Do you think this at all will be a distraction for today's game?
I don't, Rich, and I'll point to Monday night's game against the Giants. It wasn't a distraction then. Look, some of the guys said they were unaware he was going to do that, but certainly in pregame warmups and during the game, they saw that he did do that, and it didn't bother them then. I don't expect it to bother them today or going forward. I don't see any fracture over this incident at all.
All right, finally, what's the atmosphere like around Heinz Field right now? Is it strange? It looks strange.
Well, it is strange, Rich, and I went through this Monday night in New York, an empty parking lot, an empty stadium for the most part. I haven't been inside yet because I can't get inside yet. I will in a little bit, but I'm sure it'll be the same. It's just oddly different, of course. And I think this game, more than the Giants game, the lack of the crowd could hurt the Steelers more than it helped them against the Giants.
Thanks, Jerry. Definitely odd. We'll check back with you a little later in the show to talk about the Steelers' run game. I'll see you then.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. And coming up next, we preview today's opponent, the Denver Broncos. Stick around. We have more Steelers Kickoff live right here on your television home of the Steelers, KDKA TV.
The way things are changing is personal. And while everyone's financial needs are different, we're working to help with each one. So your small business stays open, your community thrives, and you're ready for what's next. Because we've always done what's right. So whether you're out with a friend, thinking about your business, or spending lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of time with the kids, we're here. It's how we're making a difference now and for the future. PNC Bank.
Yes. FanDuel Sportsbook makes it incredibly easy to get your winnings fast. But to make it even easier, we trained the world's fastest bird, the peregrine falcon, to deliver Will's payouts straight to him.
I love you, Payout Falcon. Honey, I've come into some money. And I'm going to need a new sandwich.
FanDuel Sportsbook. Payouts in as little as 24 hours. It's a FanDuel double-up. Bet any NFL money line for a chance to double your winnings.
Hi. All right.
Oh, that's cute.
That's so cute.
She's gonna have some nice big cheeks.
Yeah.
Healthy is happening right now at AHN. Call 412-DOCTORS to schedule an appointment.
Welcome back to Steelers Kickoff.
All right, everyone, it is a big game day here on KDKA TV. Right after this broadcast, we will throw to New York, hand it off to New York, where the Hall of Famer to be Bill Cowher had a chance to interview and have a conversation with Ben Roethlisberger via Zoom. Here's a preview of that interview from the NFL Today on CBS.
You're in your 17th year. Tom Brady and Drew Brees playing into their 40s. Is that something you're thinking about?
Honestly, after missing last year, I don't even want to look past this year. You know, I've always said I'll honor my contract, which is one more year. But right now, after not playing last year, you asked me that, what do you appreciate? I appreciate every week. I mean, just, one game at a time, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just taking it one game at a time and enjoying this season because, as I saw last year, it's just not promised. Tomorrow's not promised, let alone next week.
More from Coach Cowher coming up. We already have seen two AFC North teams in action. The Bengals took on the Browns during Thursday Night Football. Second quarter, Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr. 43-yard score to make it 14-2. But Joe Burrow decided to make it a game. He throws his first NFL touchdown pass right here. A few minutes later to tight end C.J. Uzomah to make it 14-10. Burrow threw the ball 61 times in this game. But late in the third, the Browns just simply ran it down their throats. Nick Chubb, insurance scoring. The Bengals held on and lose the second game here, 35-30. Cleveland wins, though they're 1-1. So the Bengals fall into fourth place in the division. Meanwhile, we're going to see who will still be sitting at the top of the AFC North after the Ravens and Steelers both play today. But as you know, every game is important in the NFL, and even though it's very early in this season, today's game could end up factoring into the AFC wildcard picture. It's an AFC game. So let's get more on what's going on there with the Denver Broncos, who are coming off a last-second loss. Rich Walsh has more on that. Rich?
All right, thanks a lot, Bob. The Steelers had to feel pretty good about getting that first win last week, but the reality is the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL. This week, they face a different reality in the Denver Broncos, although Denver isn't necessarily coming into this matchup riding mile high. Just after the Steelers wrapped up a win against the Giants on Monday night, the Broncos opened their season at home against Tennessee. And after a back-and-forth affair, Denver allowed a late field goal and lost to Tennessee, but they did show signs of being a contender. Second-year quarterback Drew Lock threw for 216 yards and a touchdown against a pretty stout Tennessee defense, and Drew was praised by his head coach afterwards.
I thought he played well. He was in command of what we were trying to do. Made some plays, both with his arm and his feet. I was pleased with the way Drew played.
Much like the Steelers, the Broncos have been hit with the injury bug. They were already without star linebacker Von Miller, and just before last week's game, wide receiver Courtland Sutton was ruled out with a shoulder injury. He has practiced and might return this week. Running back Phillip Lindsay has also been hampered with a turf toe issue, leaving Melvin Gordon as their primary running back.
He's in the end zone. Touchdown, Denver.
Former Penn State star K.J. Hamler has practiced this week and could return, and that would bolster a passing game that heavily featured tight end Noah Fant, who caught 5 passes for 81 yards and a touchdown last week. Getting Sutton and Hamler back on the field could help their young quarterback get rid of the ball quicker, something he knows will be important facing the Steelers' outside linebacker tandem.
Well, they just attack 24/7. And they're both extremely athletic. Their box in general is extremely good. Not to mention, their secondary.
Defensively, the Broncos are thin at cornerback due to the injury of A.J. Boye, but they looked pretty tough against the run last week as they limited Derrick Henry to less than 4 yards per carry and hit him in the backfield several times. And despite not having Von Miller, their pass rush is still a threat. But all things considered, the Broncos somehow lost their opener at home after their opponent missed 3 field goals and an extra point, so they are considerable underdogs heading into Heinz Field. All right, let's bring Charlie back in here. One thing we didn't mention in that story was the Broncos' current offensive line coach, Mike Munchak, who is very aware of the Steelers' strengths, weaknesses. Do you think at all is that an advantage for today's game, Charlie?
Well, it's an advantage for both sides. They're both familiar with each other. We just mentioned Mike Munchak, but when you look on the defensive side of the ball with Keith Butler, when you're familiar with the guy's style, now you're jockeying and playing chess. It comes down to the players. If you look at Melvin Gordon right now, who will get the start today, last year when he was with the Chargers, he only had 18 yards on 8 carries, so he knows how talented this defensive front is up front. The one thing I will mention there, Drew Lock, since week 13, he's only been sacked 5 times. The Steelers has led the league in sacks, so this will be a matchup I'll be paying attention to today.
All right, Charlie, let me ask you about Munchak's offensive line. They're going to have their hands full, certainly, with the Steelers front, the way they've been playing. And it looks like Melvin Gordon is going to be the go-to running back with Phillip Lindsay not playing today. You know, last year they shut down Gordon when he was with the Chargers. Do you see more of that today?
I do see more of that today. Remember last week they wanted to shut down Saquon Barkley. 15 carries, 6 yards, and made Daniel Jones one-dimensional. Another young quarterback coming in here with Drew Lock. They're going to make sure he becomes one-dimensional, so now they can attack, press, and get after the quarterback.
Steelers have been stout against the run, and they plan to do that again today. All right, Charlie, thanks. And here's another live look inside Heinz Field. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Benny Snell football. How much of a role does he play today after a really good game in New York? That's all next, right here on KDKA.
Okay, we've researched our Medicare options. It's time to choose.
We know we want access to UPMC.
Right, and no copays for preferred generic drugs.
And $0 monthly premiums.
Right, plus an allowance for healthcare products. UPMC health plan.
That was easy. So, should we clean the attic?
No.
Here's the plan that makes choosing Medicare coverage no choice at all. UPMC Health Plan.
Get a great deal on select #1 selling Kubota subcompact and compact tractors. 0 down and 0% APR for 84 months and save up to $1,700 plus no payments for 90 days.
It only takes a second to look down at a text. But in that amount of time, you've already traveled this far without looking, which could be a problem for you and them. So the Hyundai Elantra can read your text messages out loud, keeping your eyes where it matters most. The Elantra by Hyundai, with more top safety awards than Honda or Toyota brands.
Hurry in now to lease an Elantra for $119 a month or get 0% APR for 60 months. Offer ends soon.
57 million Americans have lost their jobs. Many have lost their health insurance too. But Donald Trump remains laser-focused on gutting health care, proposing billions in cuts to Medicare, and trying to destroy the Affordable Care Act in the middle of a pandemic. If Trump gets his way, insurance companies could discriminate against people with pre-existing conditions, and 23 million Americans will lose their coverage. Donald Trump is failing America. Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Get a great deal on select #1 selling Kubota subcompact and compact tractors. 0 down and 0% APR for 84 months and save up to $1,700 plus no payments for 90 days.
Important to get off to a good start, and they get to win on the road here on Monday night.
Steelers defense really took over.
It's good to be sitting here after week 1-0.
A short week, but the Steelers get to stay at home. The Broncos are coming here to Heinz Field, a 1 o'clock kick.
Knowing I was going to come back, one of the things I was most excited about was running out of the tunnel at Heinz Field.
Week in and week out, we got to come ready to play.
Every game, every day, special, every moment.
He's going to go 97 yards for the touchdown.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Terrell Edmonds and the defense on the field getting ready. Minka Fitzpatrick also there. That defense was real good last week after a slow start. They got better as the game wore on. And I would expect the Denver Broncos are going to have their hands full today. This is the list of inactives for today. Philip Lindsay got injured last week. He will not play, so Gordon gets the start there. Mark Barron, former Steelers, also out. For the Steelers, Wisniewski and DeCastro both will not play today, including Zach Gentry, the tight end. He's also out. That means Anthony McFarland will make his Steelers debut today in black and gold. And, you know, this time last week, we're all talking about James Conner. He would once again be the Steelers' quote, bell cow at running back. Unfortunately for Conner, that bell stopped ringing after just one quarter. And Conner's injury brought Benny Snell football back onto the field. And boy, was he good. He got the call early in the second quarter, and his first run went for 8 yards on a drive that ended in a Steelers touchdown. He proceeded to carry the ball for 113 yards, averaging 6 yards per carry. Snell also was clutch late in the game, gaining nearly 50 yards on the Steelers' final 2 drives as they closed out the win against New York. And for more on Snell and the Steelers' running back rotation for today against Denver, let's head back over to Rich and Jerry, who's outside Heinz Field.
All right, thanks a lot, Bob Jerry. Last week, James Conner was hurt once again. First game, first half. Benny Snell looked good. For me, he passed the eye test. What do you think the Steelers do today? Any chance of rotation? Any chance of Snell maybe taking some of Conner's carries away?
Well, Rich, I don't think you're going to see any type of rotation, but I think what might happen is if James Conner continues to struggle early like he did against the Giants, having trouble picking his holes, then I'll tell you what, you're going to see Benny Snell a little bit, and why wouldn't you? You know, you look at what Benny Snell did in the second half. He's done this before. He did this against the Chargers last year in L.A. in the second half, ran for 98 yards. He comes in the second half for Conner, and you see he rushes for 113. They like Benny Snell. I'm not saying he's going to get in there right away, but they won't be hesitant at all at putting him in if James Conner continues to have problems.
I know I personally want to see more Benny Snell out there. So we talked earlier in the show about the injuries on the offensive line. There's a bunch. Do you think a guy like Kevin Dotson, the rookie, he's ready for this type of stage?
Well, Rich, that's what we're going to find out, and that's what the Steelers are going to find out. Mike Tomlin said during the week there's a certain amount of angst when you have to start a rookie on the offensive line in the second game, especially one who had no OTAs, no preseason, and missed the first 2 weeks of training camp. But I will tell you this, they really like Kevin Dotson. David DeCastro should be back next week. Stephon Wisniewski is going to miss at least a month. But if they like what they see from Kevin Dotson, then it might be difficult for Stephon Wisniewski to jump back ahead of Dotson on the depth chart.
All right, thanks a lot, Jerry. We appreciate your help, your time today. I'll see you over there in a little bit. Go inside, do what many fans out there wish they could do, watch the Steelers game in person live.
All right, Rich, I'll see you when you get here.
Thanks very much for that, guys. And we spend a lot of time, you know, on these programs and others talking about what players do on the field, but sometimes we don't talk enough about the good things they do away from the stadium. So let's change that before we go to this commercial break. Newly re-signed Cam Hayward was named NFLPA Community MVP for his work installing the first of several Little Free Libraries in underserved communities across Western Pennsylvania. He launched the Rufus and Judy Jordan Literacy Project, which was named in honor of his grandparents. So big congrats here to Cam Hayward. He lives up to the label of leader both on and off the field. And before we go to the break, let's check in with James Brown in New York City. He has a preview of what's coming up today on the NFL Today on CBS. JB?
Hey, Bob, thank you so much. Up next on the NFL Today, it's our first doubleheader of the season right here on CBS. First up, the Broncos take on the Steelers, and after a great start to the season, Coach Cowher catches up with an old friend, Ben Roethlisberger. Plus, Jim Rome joins us with his take on Lamar Jackson and other star passers around the league. Later, the Ravens travel to Houston to face the Texans. Right now, Bob and Charlie, they'll be back to join you when the Steelers kickoff continues right here on KDKA.
I close my eyes. I feel the energy running through my veins. It fuels my drive. It feeds the fire within. The power of the sun. It's there for the taking. Don't hesitate. Never hesitate.
It's time to let the sun fuel your life. It's time to own your power.
Grit, determination,
desire to be the best, or as we call it, going to work. But good luck getting the job done without the right tools. You'll need an F-150 with best-in-class payload and plenty of capability to do it right. That's how you become the best-selling trucks in Pittsburgh and the official truck of your Pittsburgh Steelers.
Injury cases can be very complex, and each one is different. That's why it's important to have a law firm that has seen it all, every type of accident. At Edgar Snyder & Associates, we've handled more than 75,000 injury cases since 1982. Our decades of frontline experience allow us to see what other law firms might miss. I'm Rick Rosenthal. Our experience will make the difference for you.
If you elect me, your taxes are going to be raised, not cut.
What does that mean for you? More taxes taken out of your paycheck. Higher gas prices at the pump and utility bills at home. Skyrocketing medical bills. You compete with illegal immigrants to keep your job. An economy in ruins. President Trump is bringing jobs back. Historic gains. 10.6 million new jobs in 4 months. President Trump fixed our economy before. He's doing it again.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Here are today's Pepsi Picks, brought to you by Pepsi, the official soft drink of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, it's time for those picks. Everyone won last week. Rich, we'll start with you. What do you think today?
I think the Steelers are going to win. And 28-20, I think it's closer than a lot of people think out there. I like the offense getting close to 30. I think the defense, they'll keep Drew Lock in check. Here's what concerns me. Turnovers. And that's why I hate to say it, but that's why I think this game is an 8-point game.
All right, Charlie Batch.
I think the Steelers dominate this game start to finish. They'll get out, put some points on the board, then ball control in the second half. Steelers win today 24-12.
All right, we'll check in with Jerry beforehand, and this was his pick. He, too, likes the Steelers in today's game, 23-13. And I'm going to go a little bit bigger. I think the Steelers are going to really be pumped up for this game. No distractions. They'll win 31-14. And now it's time for the players to watch. Rich, you first.
My guy's Benny Snell. I think Connor has something to prove, especially after getting injured. Benny Snell looked like the better running back last week, and I want to see what Connor does here early on in this game. But Benny Snell, I think he's going to come out and he's going to prove to be the better running back right now. And my eye test tells me that he's the better running back, so he's my guy to watch this week.
Charlie.
I'm going with the quickest man on the defense. That's Devin Bush. This is a guy that's going to be all over the field. I truly believe that this guy will go out here and make a couple game-changing plays today.
All right, Jerry Dulac wants to watch the tight end situation, and Eric Ebron, who had 1 catch and only 2 targets last week. That may increase. I like Chase Claypool. I think he proved that he could be a good down-the-field guy. Not so much quantity. We're talking quality with Chase Claypool. And that's going to do it for us this week in the Kickoff Show. And remember, the NFL Today is next, followed by the Kickoff at 1 p.m. from Heinz Field. Then right after the game, make sure you switch over to Pittsburgh CW for the Extra Point program and a special nightly sports call where we get your immediate reaction to the Steelers and the Broncos tonight. 11:35, it's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, filled with plenty of hot takes. And for everyone here at KDKA, I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us. It's game day. We hope you have a wonderful Sunday.